Merħba lura fil-programm. It-tieni taqsima tal-programm tal-lum ser tlaqqana mal-avukat Joseph Chetcuti, personaġġ magħruf sew bħala attivist fil-qasam ta' drittijiet tal-omosessuali. Joseph Chetcuti ftit ta' xhur ilu nieda l-aħħar pubblikazzjoni tiegħu bl-isem ta' Mardi Gras, What Brought It On and How It Changed Us.
I think 1978 was an important year because in the United States there was a backlash against the rights that gay men and lesbians had secured. I mean, there weren't that many, there were relatively few, but the conservative right was fighting against it. There was a request by a group in the United States to have a kind of a celebration march or something like that. And what happened in 1978 was that there were two political events organized, a morning march and an afternoon forum, and there was also a Mardi Gras in the evening. Now, there's been some discussion as to the nature of Mardi Gras, whether it was political or not. The reality is it took place in the gay male ghetto along Oxford Street, and obviously the majority of people would have been gay men from the bars. So that's how it started, and the book came about because in 1998 I attended the 20th anniversary of Sydney's first gay Mardi Gras. I found out that someone I knew had passed away, and I thought of writing a kind of a history, but at that stage what I had in mind was a history of celebration. As I did my interviews with various activists, I realized that there were different stories, and I came to the appreciation that there was a great deal of revisionism. All the small groups, those on the left of left, were trying to create Mardi Gras in their own image. So what I tried to do is really talk about Mardi Gras based on the interviews, but not only on the interviews, but also on the documents that were available.
But despite all this, we find that gays are still facing harsh realities, not just in Australia, but even more so overseas.
I think we've got to recognise that we are not living in a perfect world, okay? We cannot say, for example, that discrimination against people of ethnic background has disappeared. There's obviously always some kind of discrimination, but I think we must not exaggerate the position in Australia. I think Australians have generally been very much welcoming of ethnic people and even of gay men and lesbians. I mean, when you have lived, in the movement for as long as I have, you can see the difference. I think our biggest problem, though, is that we need to look away from Australia. We need to find out what's happening in other countries. As you well know, I work as a lawyer and I do some migration work, quite a lot of migration work, in fact, and some of that migration work involves people who are refugees and who are claiming refugee status on the basis of their sexuality. Some gay men, lesbians and members of the wider LGBTI community are really suffering overseas, and I think that's probably been one of our major failings in Australia as far as the gay movement is concerned.
Nowadays, Mardi Gras is a celebration of the gay identity and sexuality. But there are a lot of critics still who say, why do you have to go and parade your sexuality in, Sydney's main road? We don't do it. What's your response to that? Well,
the response is very, very simple. I think people who say that really do not understand what the movement is all about. I came out in late 1972. In late 1972, it was very difficult to find a book on homosexuality that was not in some way prejudiced against us. Since then, we have literature that has flourished. We have many other areas that have become very, very supportive. But I think the important thing is it's no longer acceptable in Australia to be homophobic. And why do we go and celebrate our sexuality? Why wouldn't you celebrate your sexuality when you have made all these gains over 40 years? I mean, in many ways, we have changed Australia. We have changed ourselves too. And why not? The person who launched the book was Michael Kirby. Michael Kirby was the first gay man who was a judge on the High Court. Also present at that launch was Mary Goodron, who was the first female High Court judge. You know, we had the Assistant Police Commissioner of New South Wales. I had about 3 MPs, a member of the Sydney Local Council. So why shouldn't we celebrate? In fact, Michael Kirby made the comment about the police commissioner. He noted that you know, he came to the launch in all his regalia. That would not have happened in 1978. That is why we celebrate. We celebrate to tell people that there's nothing wrong with being gay, and I think those who are coming after us, they need to have role models.
This is definitely not your first book. I'm holding here 2 of your previous books as well, Queer Mediterranean Memories and Il Tipo Rosa, that was quite controversial in Malta.
In Australia, I'm generally accused of being conservative. In Malta, I'm accused of being radical. So I must be somewhere in the middle. I must be doing something right, I think. Il Tipo Rosa was, of course, terribly important. It was important because at that stage, homosexuality was not on the agenda, on the national agenda. And it was launched on Live FM, on Il Parlamento al Popolo, with Emi Benzina. The person who launched it was the present Minister of Education, Everest Bartolo. That in itself was quite controversial. I think 1994 is when I first appeared in Piazza Atleta, and that was also was quite controversial. And I remember when I finished, Lou Bondi was actually the one who interviewed me. When we finished the program, someone came and said, "There's a group of men waiting for you outside the studio in Guadamanja." And I said, "Good God, here we go." You know, so I went there, you know, ready to have a fight with them, a verbal fight with them, only to find a group of gays had turned up to sort of support me. From there, Lou Bondi and I went, and a number of others went to have a pizza at Parcherville. You know, we couldn't believe the response. Families would gathered around us, you know, to congratulate us. And then it was after that that I realized there was a need to put out something like Il Tipo Rosa.